All right. All right, everyone, welcome. Welcome to the September Buckeye Wellness Lunch and Learn. I'm Nicole Johnson. I'm the program coordinator with Buckeye Wellness, and thank you all for joining us today. We have some great upcoming events. Our next Lunch and Learn will be October 22nd. It's going to focus on mental health. The annual State of Health and Wellness is on September 27th, which is on a Monday. So if you have not registered for that, I would encourage you all to register and attend and hear updates and what's happening in the world of wellness at the university. The Rejuvenate and Renew webinar series starts next Wednesday on the 29th, and that will be every Wednesday from 12:30 to 1. This is similar to our Stay Calm and Well webinar series. If you attended any of those sessions, this one's just taken a different spin on it. On October 15th, we have the Amazing Race to Wellness. This will take place outside on the South Oval. So you can register your team of 4 to come in and race through the South Oval, competing in different station setup, and hopefully have a lot of fun outside enjoying the fall weather. Every Monday at 11:50 to noon, we have Movement and Mindfulness Mondays. These are a great little 10-minute break in your day. We bring in different experts from across the university to lead everyone through either a mindfulness session or some stretches or some type of circuit. So those are great to attend if you are able to. And not listed on here, but we still have our virtual fitness classes continuing. They are Monday through Thursday. So we would love to see you at some of those with our great fitness instructors. Now, during the presentation today, you can post any questions you have in the chat box, and we'll make sure to get to them at the end. So our speaker today is Kathy Tutt. Kathy is the Family and Consumer Sciences Educator for Ohio State University Extension in Clark County. Kathy came to Ohio State University Extension as a Family and Consumer Sciences Educator in May of 2010. She does community educational programs to help families build resiliency through all stages of life. Kathy has written an Aging Smart curriculum that focuses on fall prevention, aging and eating, personal safety, and scams. Kathy has also created a family empowerment curriculum called On My Terms. The family communication tool ensures loved ones know and understand the later life wishes of older adults. Kathy also gives lead to the Universal Home Design Project at Ohio State University's Molly Cairn Agricultural Center. Kathy is a graduate of Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, where she received a Bachelor's of Science in Family Studies and Social Work and a Master's of Science in Family and Child Studies. During her graduate work at Miami University, her interest in the unique issues with aging and family communication began. Her research on transnational caregiving looked at the stress experienced by first-generation immigrant men who were caregiving for their aging parents who still resided in their home country of origin. However, it wasn't until her personal life intersected with her scholarly work that she was able to fully grasp understanding of caregiving stress and long-term care. In 2011, Kathy's mother was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and the navigation of her mother's journey has given her a unique perspective. So I will stop sharing my screen, and Kathy, I will let you take over.
Great, thank you so much. I'm trying to also navigate my Zoom session over here. And so, I'm very fortunate with working with the job that I have because I get to see my personal life and my job interests intersect with each other. And so this program that we're doing today is called Master of Memory. It's usually done as a series, but I've shortened it a little bit so that we could share some of the information with you guys today. And if there's an interest in the more in-depth portion of the series, there are a team of educators around the state of Ohio that are willing to offer that and share that with you. So I just want to start out really quickly with a true or false question, and you can just answer it in your mind. Memory abilities will decline in older adulthood so much that will affect our day-to-day living. And so when we think about this, the answer for this is false. A lot of people would say yes, but about 85% of adults that are age 65 or older do not show significant decline in memory, and they're able to live independently. Normal cognitive aging should not interfere with your everyday functioning. So the key words there are just that it affects your day-to-day living. So another true or false, forgetfulness is one of the top concerns for baby boomers. And this one is actually true. Many older adults have an increased anxiety about memory as they and their loved ones age, but they also have the feeling that they have little control over their memory ability. Some of the most common concerns among older adults are forgetting names of people and locations of objects, losing the thread of a conversation, forgetting what you're about to do or why you went into a room, forgetting if a task was completed. It is important to know that memory lapses do happen to people of any age, but it does seem that as we get older, we start to associate these lapses with our age. So some changes can be expected, but it doesn't mean that you can't do something about it. You can be proactive and use some strategies and lifestyle adaptations that will help you increase your memory and brain health. One of the important things that we will talk about today as we go through is that part of memory is that if you don't learn and you don't receive good information, you're not going to be able to remember it. So your memory is only as good as the information that you take in. So as we start thinking about the information we take in, we also need to think about intelligence. So intelligence can be described as the capacity for learning, reasoning, and understanding. We divide intelligence into two types, so crystallized and fluid. Your crystallized intelligence is based on learning and experience. It stays relatively stable with increasing age. So we might say that crystallized intelligence is knowledge dependent on acquired information. So some examples of that crystallized intelligence would include your vocabulary, your skills with numbers, and your ability to make judgments based on past decisions and past experiences. A good way to remember your crystallized intelligence, what it does is just to think of a crystal. So it's hard and it's clear. Our other type of intelligence, fluid intelligence. So this deals with your ability to think and make decisions on the spot. Studies show that this type of intelligence reaches its peak during early adulthood and begins to decline in subsequent years. Fluid intelligence could be described as knowledge that is not dependent on acquired information. It's your ability to think about a situation and react quickly to it, as well as your attention span. And those are all tied to your fluid intelligence. You can think about fluid intelligence like a fluid. So sometimes it's clear and fast, and then sometimes it might be murky and slow. So moving on to memory, we need to look at the way that memory is processed. So when we receive new information, it's managed in three ways, through sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. So your sensory memory contains information received immediately from your senses that are in your brain. Your brain then quickly decides whether this information needs to be processed for further or if it can be disregarded. If our brains tried to remember everything, the capacity of the brain would just be overloaded in the matter of minutes. If you think about all the things that are sensory stimuli to you, most of the things that we receive are processed pieces of information, and they might meet our basic needs at that time. But if we don't need that, everything else just goes away from our sensory memory. And then if information is further processed, it moves into our short-term memory or our working memory. Your short-term memory can hold information for several minutes and then disregards it if it's not repeated or rehearsed. This type of memory can hold about 7 pieces of information. So phone numbers, zip codes, serial numbers, etc. Your working memory is also where you remember things from your long-term memory and process them to suit your needs. So then if a piece of information makes it through your short-term memory and it's deemed important enough to remember further, then it is encoded into your long-term memory where it may last forever. Long-term memory allows information to be retrieved even after it's been stored in the brain and out of conscious thought for a period of time. Information in your long-term memory could have been learned or encoded 10 minutes ago or 10 years ago. Storage can take a long time, and retrieval can be tough sometimes. Thus, sometimes we'll talk about ourselves as having memory lapse when our recall isn't instantaneous. So just like if you were thinking about your computer and your laptop, if things aren't organized or if your computer is slowed down, it may take a while to retrieve some of those files that are stored in our computer for take a little bit longer for us to retrieve that. And your brain's capacity then to hold your long-term memory is huge. So if you remember a little bit earlier, I talked about we can't remember things until we've actually learned them. There's so many times that when we talk about intelligence and memory, we have to also consider how we learn things. Generally, every person learns a new piece of information in through one of three ways: hearing it, seeing it, or doing it. Three types of learners are your auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learners, or as I like to call them, our hearers, our seers, and our meddlers. Of course, one person may use a combination of the three to learn something new, but every person has their own preferred way of learning for different tasks. Once you discover how best you learn certain pieces of information, for instance, how best you learn to remember names, you can maximize that ability by ensuring that you always learn and use those same tools learning the same way. So looking at a little bit further into this, our auditory learner, that's someone who prefers to hear information rather than reading it or experiencing it hands-on. An auditory learner may need to read things aloud so that he or she can hear it and then process it for further storage. Auditory learners normally memorize things by repeating them aloud over and over again. So an auditory learner who isn't wearing his or her hearing aid may be assumed to have hearing problems or memory problems. However, it may actually be a problem with them hearing, and then they don't learn the information, therefore they're not able to remember it. The visual learners, someone who learns best by seeing and reading information. This type of learner may need to write things down repeatedly while trying to memorize it. A visual learner may have trouble remembering names and information while being introduced to people or to groups of people. So why might a visual learner have trouble remembering names? Well, because most of the world does not go around with a name tag on your lapel introducing yourselves. Most of the time when we're introduced to someone new, you only hear their name. And if you're a visual learner, you're less likely to remember their name than if you were an auditory learner in the same situation. So just like our auditory learners who may be having some issues with their hearing or not staying on top of hearing aid visits and staying in touch with the doctor, a visual learner who isn't wearing their glasses, who isn't following through with eye appointments, may think that they're experiencing some memory problems. However, in reality is, again, they didn't learn the information in the first place. And then our last group here are our kinesthetic learners. So they're the type of person that probably was a meddler when they were younger. So if you ever have known a child who can't keep his or her hands off of things, they probably were a kinesthetic learner. This type of learner will probably use hand gestures to answer questions. For instance, which way do you turn a light bulb to screw or unscrew it? So a kinesthetic learner who suffers from some types of ability or mobility impairment can also experience something that we would consider to be memory problems. However, again, they may not have been able to learn it in the first place. So our best learners are well-rounded. They blend three types of learning, and that flexes the brain to make sure it's getting the proper exercise. So why can't I remember? You know, there's so many times that you can't remember things. And I do want to make sure that we touch a little bit on, you know, forgetting where you put your car keys is one thing. Forgetting how to use those car keys is a completely different thing. So when we look about why can't I remember, there's many times that you can't remember something because you really never learned it in the beginning. But also once the information is stored, it could take a while for it to come back out. Speed, so your speed of recall may decline with age. Often relaxing your mind will allow that information to surface again. Additionally, medications, alcohol, and other substances can impair your ability to recall information. The other things that can affect it are stress, grief, depression, and other emotional pressures that can affect your ability to remember. In addition, your brain really needs some certain nutrients to function properly. Without the right building blocks, your brain cannot make chemicals that make memories and allow retrieval of information. And then your daily habits can help or hinder it when it comes to remembering. Things like sleep and other habits that you may have that will affect you from day to day. So we want to look at some of these strategies that help you remember. Like I said, it is we do have normal slowdown of recall, recognition, and those type of things as we age. So we do have some strategies that will help that. Concentration, association, repetition, and relaxation may be ways to help you remember almost anything, from names to where you left your keys to even reciting the Gettysburg Address. You may have to try different methods or blend two or more of these strategies and see which one works for you. Research shows that these strategies are an effective means by which you can improve your memory. So the first one here is concentration. One of the simplest ways to improve your memory is to realize the importance of focusing your attention on what you really want to remember. Coincidentally, the lack of attention and concentration is one of those main reasons that information is forgotten. Concentration is important in gathering information from your sensory memory. Have you ever had experience of hearing someone's name at the beginning of a phone call and then not being able to remember it by the end of the conversation? That could be because something distracted you during the conversation. It is often hard to concentrate on more than one thing at a time. For me, multitasking is not really a thing because I cannot effectively multitask without losing memory or losing some of the things that I'm trying to do because I'm not concentrating on the task at hand. Association is the next type of strategy that we talk about. It is important for memory technique, uses cues and prompts to connect your two memories. Much association of new information is done unconsciously, but you can make a conscious effort to associate something you want to remember with something that you already know. Elaboration is seeking the prompts that will help you get to a memory. It's linking items together to find a memory. And when you're trying to remember where you placed your car keys, you can picture the room where you may have left it or most likely have put them. Visualization can be quite an effective strategy. Also, an organization that helps if you like items that are stored together. Links and cues are also help with association. For example, if I have trouble remembering my frequent flyer numbers, and I can never remember the first two characters of that, the first two characters of my frequent flyer is 4H. So since I work for Extension and 4H program is part of Extension, I will use that as my link or my cue to my frequent flyer number. Another one might be, an example of this might be that you have a neighbor that you cannot remember her name for anything. And she has red hair. Her name is Rose and her last name is Campbell. So you can connect Rose with the color of her hair. Also the red hair goes with Campbell soup cans. And so you can make that connection and pull those two links together to help you remember that her name is Rose Campbell. Repetition is another one. So using external strategies to remind you. How many use one or more strategies like keeping a list or writing notes, keeping something in the same place, or keeping a calendar? So when you use these tools, you don't have to worry about keeping track of things in your memory. So repetition also includes rehearsal, and that literally means going through something again, repeating it several times to yourself over and over again, or practicing it several times until you're able to do it correctly. Another thing that falls into this rehearsal and repetition are some of those commercials that we've heard throughout our whole lifetime. So for example, Nationwide is, and we've heard it so many times, on your side, right? Or some of you guys who are from my generation may remember plop, plop, fizz, fizz. And I'm sure you're going to follow it up with, oh, what a relief it is. Because we've heard those over and over and over repeated throughout our lifetime. The next tool that we have is relaxation. So this is a technique for remembering, but it's also an acquired skill that will help you concentrate better, associate better, and practice your repetition better. It will also help your overall day-to-day activities. Relaxation helps free your mind and allows your brain to sort through what is and what is not important to you. So after you relax, you may be able to recall the name of a song that you heard earlier in the day, or the punchline of a funny joke that you wanted to tell your friend. This is also the time relaxation if you've ever gone to bed at night and all of a sudden the name of the person that you saw in the grocery store pops in your head, and it's because you have actually taken the time to relax. And so those associations and the consolidation takes place that you can remember that person's name. So now that we've talked about these memory strategies, we want to explore some of the other things that can impact your memory. So we're going to look at nutrition and how it affects your memory and your brain power. So your brain is one of the most amazing organs that we have because it runs your entire body. Imagine if you weighed 200 pounds, your brain would only weigh 4 pounds. So your brain is small, but it uses a significant amount of your body's energy. It uses about 30% of your body's energy. So if you aren't eating a healthy, balanced diet, your brain could be starving for energy that it needs to function. Energy to run the brain is one matter, but things like chemicals and proteins to make memories need specific nutrients that may be lacking in your diet. Also, an unhealthy diet can cause conditions that restrict blood flow to the brain. The brain, like every other part of your body, needs adequate blood flow to get oxygen and nutrients to keep it functioning at its optimal level. There are some conditions that may restrict your blood flow to the brain. Those include clogged arteries, high blood pressure, and dehydration. With your clogged arteries, this is a substance that, clogged arteries, a substance called plaque develops inside your blood vessels, and the plaque can reduce or even stop the flow of blood, not only to your brain, but to your heart and other vital organs as well. Without proper blood flow, the brain can't get oxygen and the nutrients that it needs to function. Cholesterol is another one of our main causes of plaque in the blood vessels. So you might be wondering how your diet can affect clogged arteries. Clogged arteries are linked to diets that are high in fat, high in cholesterol. So lowering your overall intake of fat, and especially saturated fats, and increasing your intake of soluble fiber can help reduce your cholesterol levels. High blood pressure is another concern that we have, also called hypertension, and that is the force of blood against your artery walls, and it's too strong. High blood pressure can damage your arteries, your hearts, and kidneys, and lead to hardening of the arteries and stroke. High blood pressure is also known as a silent killer because there are a few symptoms. So you should have your blood pressure checked regularly to make sure that you're maintaining a healthy range. Maintaining healthy weight is important part of controlling high blood pressure. Foods that are high in fat can cause your heart to work harder, resulting in increased pressure in your arteries, as well as foods that are high in sodium can also affect hypertension. The last one on here is dehydration. So hydration is probably one of the key elements to your health and well-being. It's one of the easiest ways to maintain your physical and your mental health. Water helps make the fluid portion of your blood. And without that fluid portion of the blood, oxygen and nutrients cannot be readily delivered to the body's organs, including the brain. As we discussed a little earlier, decreased blood flow to the brain not only affects your memory, but it also has some more serious medical complications. So eating nutrient-rich eating plans really benefit the brain. And I'm sure most of you have seen or heard of MyPlate, which is the guide to help plan your meals. Half your plate should consist of fruits and vegetables, while lean proteins and whole grains round out the rest of your plate. Low fat is also on the outside, low fat dairy of the plate. And there are some recommended eating plans that will help you reach these guidelines. So the first one here is the Mediterranean diet. It's a way of eating based on traditional cuisine countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean diet is one of the healthy eating plans recommended by the dietary guidelines for Americans to promote and prevent chronic disease. So if you notice about, what do you notice about this picture? You will see a lot of fruits, vegetables, olive oils, nuts, and those type of things. Those are all included in that Mediterranean diet. So the Mediterranean diet is plant-based rather than meat-based, with vegetables, fruit, herbs, nuts, beans, and whole grains as its foundation. The main components of this diet include daily consumption of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and healthy fats, weekly intake of fish, poultry, beans, and eggs, moderate portions of dairy products, and limited intake of red meat. Another important element of the Mediterranean diet is sharing meals with family and friends, enjoying a glass of red wine, and being physically active. So another eating plan is the DASH diet. So dietary approaches to stop hypertension. This is recommended for many people who have high blood pressure. So the primary components of the DASH diet are, again, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, choosing lean meats and plant-based proteins, limiting saturated fat and cholesterol, and then limiting sweets and added sugars. So there is also a hybrid recommended. It's called the MIND diet. So this is a hybrid of the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet, and it's designed to promote brain health and prevent Alzheimer's disease. The US study to protect brain health through lifestyle intervention to reduce risk is a multi-site randomized clinical trial designed to evaluate whether lifestyle interventions including the MIND diet may protect cognitive function in older adults who are at risk for cognitive decline. So the main components of this are our green leafy vegetables like spinach, salad greens, at least 6 servings a week. Other vegetables at least once a day. 5 servings of nuts, 2 or more servings of berries, at least 3 servings of beans a week, whole grains, fish, poultry, using olive oil as your main cooking oil. And in this diet, you avoid red meat, butter and margarine, cheeses, pastries and sweets, and fried food as well. So your diet is not only part of your healthy lifestyle, exercise for your body and your mind also improves your brain function. So studies show that staying physically active and exercising regularly is beneficial for overall health. Even moderate exercise and physical activity can improve the health and well-being for people who are frail, who have disease that may accompany aging. Also, as with any major lifestyle changes, consult with your healthcare provider before you start an exercise program. Physical activity is more than just exercise, though. There are many ways to be active that are free and low cost and don't require any special equipment. So those would include brisk walking, raking leaves, taking the stairs, checking out an exercise video from the library. So regular exercise combined with a healthy diet can reduce your bad cholesterol levels and increase your good cholesterol levels. So most healthcare providers recommend that you get about 30 minutes of exercise most days of the week. So these can come in 10-minute increments or 10-minute chunks if necessary. They don't have to be one straight 30-minute exercise time. I wanted to mention a study that was done by the National Institute of Health that showed 60% lower risk among those with the highest number of healthy behaviors for Alzheimer's disease. So combining more healthy lifestyle behaviors was associated with substantially lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. In this study, it included about 3,000 research participants, and it was funded by the National Institute on Aging, which is part of the National Institute of Health. So the behaviors that were measured in this study were physical activity, not smoking, light to moderate consumption of alcohol, a high quality diet, and then cognitive activities or exercise for your brain. And what it found is that those who adhered to 4 or all 5 of these specified healthy behaviors were found to have a 60% lower risk of Alzheimer's. The behaviors, again, were being physically active and not smoking, light to moderate alcohol consumption, diet, and exercising for your brain. So we looked at diet and we were talking about exercise, and now we need to look at some of these medications that might affect your memory function as well. So your prescription medications are compounds that are safely taken when advised by your healthcare provider. Drugs are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration and been approved after some rigorous testing for effectiveness. The other type is over-the-counter medications. So these are compounds that the Food and Drug Administration have determined can be used without a prescription from your healthcare provider. The classification of over-the-counter doesn't necessarily mean that these drugs are completely safe, and these components can still cause some unexpected complications with other medications you might be taking. And it's really a good idea to check with your healthcare provider before you take any over-the-counter medications. One of the things with older adults, on average, they're prescribed more medications than any other age group in the United States. So the medications can have side effects that can impact your memory. Even your non-prescription substances can impact your memory. Things like caffeine and nicotine and alcohol are also substances that you can encounter through your daily habits that will affect your memory as well. You also want to make sure that you're aware that medications and their side effects, different medications can cause different things in different people. So some medications can have some negative side effects on your memory and on your overall being. And so you should never just assume that you should just take these and just deal with those consequences or those side effects. Always talk to your physician about anything that's unintended and let him know that you are struggling with something so that they may need to make just a few changes or a few tweaks to your medications as well. Other substances besides your medication are things that may affect your memory. So caffeine, substance that's known as a stimulant. So caffeine may improve your attention span, allowing you to process more information and make you more alert, but it can also cause you to have a jittery feeling and make it harder for you to concentrate. Another side effect of caffeine is that it does hamper your sleep, and sleep is needed for memory consolidation. So this is the process where your short-term memories are converted to long-term memories, and lack of sleep can affect how your memories are stored. The other substance is nicotine. It is one of more than 4,000 chemicals found in the smoke from tobacco products, such as cigarettes, cigars, and pipes. It's the primary component in tobacco that acts on the brain. Smokeless tobacco products, such as snuff and chewing tobacco, also contain many toxins, as well as really high levels of nicotine. So nicotine does trigger the release of a chemical in your brain called dopamine. Withdrawals from dopamine can affect your motivation and emotions, causing your concentration and ability to remember to be affected. Smoking also lowers the amount of oxygen that is carried to your brain, and that can also interfere with your memory functioning. Also, when we talk about alcohol, aside from just general disorientation that alcohol may cause, there are some other conditions that may affect your memory. Alcohol can affect the area of your brain known as your hippocampus, and the hippocampus is involved in transferring memories from short-term to long-term memory, which is, again, that term that I used earlier called consolidation. I also want to bring up some of these supplements that are advertised as promising or praised for their effectiveness. However, a lot of times these are not well enough investigated. So although they may be readily available, no pills have yet been approved by the Food and Drug Administration as intelligence or memory boosters. Most of these supplements are untested or have not been tested well enough to really prove any legitimate claims regarding memory improvement. So along with medications, we also want to just take a look here at some of these medical conditions that will affect you. So conditions that can affect your memory may vary greatly, from physical, emotional, treatable, and then also some permanent conditions that may affect your memory as well. So if you remember earlier, I talked about the fact that there are 3 basic learning types. If you also remember, auditory and visual learners do their best when they can hear and see things respectively. So more than 60% of our population learn and remember things best by seeing them. So if a visual learner is not able to see information, he or she may not be able to remember that information well, or if at all. Problems associated with vision may be as simple as nearsightedness and require prescription eyewear, or as serious as partial or total blindness. So aging does bring about some changes that affect your eyesight. Most of these changes, such as nearsightedness or farsightedness, can be corrected with prescription eyewear. In fact, some of the conditions may be improved with non-prescription eyewear that's readily available in retail stores. You should keep regular annual appointments with your eye health professional to make sure that your glasses are properly adjusted and they are at the right lens strength. But you also want to keep those appointments to make sure that your overall eye health and that they can protect or detect any type of eye disease as well. Another one is your hearing. So we know that 30% of the population learns by hearing. So if you're an auditory learner and hearing is impaired, again, your hearing loss might have an effect on your ability to remember. Loss of hearing is very common as we age, and an ability to hear properly can often cause confusion. In addition, another thing that we worry about with your hearing is it may affect things such as your balance or spatial orientation and awareness. The next medical condition I want to talk to you about is your thyroid. So your thyroid gland is located in your throat. It produces hormones that help regulate your body's metabolic rate. If your thyroid is overactive, meaning it produces too much hormone, you may be nervous, overexcited, you might have trouble sleeping, and you may have trouble with your ability to concentrate. And all of these conditions can lead to an ability to learn and remember things. Conversely, if your thyroid is underactive, meaning it does not produce enough hormone, you may experience fatigue, extreme sleepiness, and lack of mental agility. All of these factors can produce an inability to concentrate. Your healthcare provider may perform simple blood tests to check your status of your thyroid and make sure that an appropriate amount of hormone is being released into your body. In fact, many health professionals are now recommending thyroid checks once every 5 years after the age of 35. So we also want to talk about sleep. Your body and mind work really hard, and you're entitled to rest it. So it's a common misconception that your brain shuts down during sleep. But however, your brain is quite active at night, though the activity is a little bit different during the process of sleep than when you're awake. So while you're awake, your brain is processing information around you and making decisions for you. But at night, your brain is reconciling itself, making sense of the mass amount of information that's absorbed throughout the day. It's during this time that memory consolidation occurs. So consolidation is a process by which your brain tries to organize itself and relate one thing to another. While consolidation can really happen anytime that you're relaxed, when you're asleep, your brain can stop taking in new information and work on the information that's already been received. Also, interaction with other people keeps your mind sharp. Conversation with another person or a group of people requires you to think about what is being said and responding to what is being said. This can require you to draw on your memory, and it most certainly can cause new memories to be created. Granted, you may not need to remember the conversation, but it has stimulated your mind in some way. There is no way to recreate interaction with another person. However, if you're not able to see other people on a regular basis, you can take an active role in making sure that your environment is stimulating. We want to find ways to really exercise our brain. So you want to start. You can read things that you normally would not. Find things such as word games that will stretch your mind, or play games such as chess or checkers. Also, finding a new route home, not using your GPS to get to places, and reusing your brain and exercising that brain so that you can keep it strong and healthy. And stress, we talk a lot about stress. Stress does affect different people in different ways. And some people may have the type of personality that's not affected by stress, but other people's stress can be so prevalent that it is the root for other medical conditions. So heart disease and hypertension are two of the most common reactions to prolonged stress by the body. Both of these conditions can lead to decreased blood flow to the brain, which can in turn affect your memory. Prolonged stress can also affect your ability to concentrate and think rationally. It may also affect your ability to remember new things. So just keep in mind that our body's stress reaction is also what allows us to avoid dangerous situations and make quick judgment calls, but that chronic unrelenting stress is very detrimental to our health. So we need to find ways to balance between not responding to stressful situations and over responding to them in a prolonged state. Another thing that can affect us is grief. So grief is an emotional response to loss. It can present itself in many ways and almost always include a sense of shock, disbelief, sorrow, and regret. Since people handle grief differently, the grieving process may take longer for some to overcome than others. So while a person is grieving, he or she may experience an inability to concentrate and learn new things. The mind is so clouded with other things that it's unable to focus on the environment. In many cases, grief is complicated by isolation and solitude, so namely the lack of someone with whom to share your feelings and frustration. Solitude and grief can also lead to depression. So depression may be associated with isolation and grief following the loss of a spouse, a job, or a home. And it can be a side effect of certain medications that you're taking. While we must remember that no matter what the cause, depression is a condition that affects both the body and the mind. Lack of interest and stimulation is bad for the brain, and lack of activity is bad for your body. The condition of depression is quite common in older adults and often goes undiagnosed. However, once diagnosed, this condition is very treatable, either with medication or psychotherapy, or a combination of both. So I do want to talk a little bit about a health condition of dementia. So dementia is an impairment of the brain. Its functions such as memory, reasoning, judgment, and it's so severe that it affects the person's ability to function at his or her usual level. This impairment is due to a loss or damage to neurons or synapses in the brain. Dementia symptoms depend on the type of disease or the disorder where the damage has occurred in the brain. Some symptoms are common across most types of dementia, such as difficulty remembering recent events or finding the right words to express your thoughts. With all types of dementia, people may experience changes in mood, personality, and behaviors. Now, this can come in the sense of frustration with not remembering how to do things, frustration with the inability to navigate their surroundings. And so we do see some mood and personality changes come and play with there. The two most common types of dementia that we have are vascular dementia and dementia of the Alzheimer's type. You might know this better as Alzheimer's disease, and Alzheimer's disease is usually characterized by an inability of nervous signals to be transported across your brain in the synapse. Vascular dementia is usually caused by a stroke. So when blood flow is blocked or slowed to the brain cells may die, and vascular dementia may ensue. So dementia, specifically Alzheimer's disease, affects about 6 million people in the United States. The risk of developing the illness increases with age, and about 10% of people who have dementia by the age of 65, and some studies indicate that almost 50% of people can have some form of the disease after the age of 85. The onset of dementia is slow and often can't be dated exactly. The course of dementia may progress over the years. In most cases, dementia is not reversible, but there are some medications that can help alleviate the symptoms associated with certain types of dementia by increasing the amount of neurotransmitters in the brain. Although many people have the same symptoms, everyone experiences dementia in a unique way. It is a progressive disease, so symptoms do get worse over time. And again, there's currently no cure, although there are lots of ways in which people can be helped. And seeking medical advice, getting a diagnosis is the first step so that support can be provided through all stages of this journey. So when do we seek help? So out of concern for yourself and others, you should seek medical help when your memory problems begin to interfere with your ability to live alone or care for yourself. getting lost in familiar surroundings, forgetting where you've been, not recognizing family or familiar people, repeating the same question over and over again are really not part of normal memory loss. Your memory problems can be diagnosed through tests such as an MRI or a CT scan of the brain, blood test, EEGs, personality tests as well can help determine. So these help determine if your source of impairment, while there are no medications or vitamins or herbs, there are some medications, again, that we can try to help slow down this decline and help people. We've taken a lot of information. I've given you quite a bit, and it's a broad overview of some of these things that can affect your memory. But just to kind of summarize this for you, again, some memory loss is expected as you age, and that a lot of times comes in your speed of recall that may decline as you age. Memory strategies can promote your memory. Many times you cannot remember something because it's never learned in the beginning. So once the information is stored, once you learn it and it's stored, it can take a while for it to come back out. So relaxing your mind and your body will help those memories surface again. Medications and alcohol can also impair your ability to remember and recall information. And those things such as stress, grief, and depression, and other emotional pressures can affect your ability to remember, concentrate, and recall information. When the brain is under pressure, it just really cannot function properly. And then lastly, your brain needs certain nutrients to function properly. Without the right building blocks, your brain cannot make chemicals that make memories and allow for retrieval of information. So I do want to take a minute as I'm finishing up to share with you, I do a Healthy Aging Network telecast every single month. And the topics in there vary greatly depending on who my guest is. So we've had guests from the College of Nursing talking about brain health and heart health. We've had guests from our Elder Justice Unit from the Ohio Attorney General's Office talking about senior scams and protecting older adults. Some of our extension educators have worked with me closely looking at stroke prevention, as well as nutrition and sun safety. We've also explored mental health and resiliency in older adults. But if you go to this link here, the go.osu.edu/aging telecast, it will give you a listing of all of those telecasts and the link that you can view those. So this presentation today was adapted from The Master of Memory by Andrew Crocker, who is with the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Services. And that is my contact information. So I will take a minute and answer any questions that you might have.
Hi guys, so Nicole's having issues with the link right now, so I'm going to ask the questions put in the chat box. The first question was, what do you think about memory supplements such as Prevagen and etc.?
So again, those are still under some scrutiny and some investigation to really give you the actual benefits of those. And so always talk with your doctor to make sure that you're not taking something that might hamper other medications they're giving you. But the research is still out on those. So we really can't recommend them or say that they could be harmful to you either.
Thank you. The next question is, how do they define light to moderate alcohol consumption?
I don't know the actual, I'm going to say that like a drink a day. Again, if you look at the Mediterranean diet, it does talk about wine. But I think that 1 to 2 drinks is an acceptable light to moderate amount of alcohol. I would have to double check what those recommendations might be though.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is, can you confirm if vitamin E administration is correlated with reduced risk of cognitive decline? And then they also want to know the dose.
That I don't know. I'm not sure about that one either. I would have to do some research on that and get some information back to you.
Absolutely.
But I don't know.
The next question is, does consolidation still take place during sleep if you are taking medications to help you sleep?
Yes. Yeah, because you're still allowing that brain to take some time into rest. And sometimes those medications can help your brain relax and help with that consolidation process.
Alrighty. And then lastly, is the Healthy Aging Network open to the public?
Yes, you can go to that link, the go.osu.edu /aging telecast. Those are the ones that have already been recorded, and they are on YouTube. And then the monthly telecast, when I do it, it goes out over some public TV stations that are throughout the state of Ohio, but they can always be viewed at that the link there, the go.osu.edu /aging telecast, and they're on YouTube through there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If that was, oh wait, there's another question that just popped up. Someone missed a part on cataracts. They want to know if you can slow down the progress and vitamins that are helpful with that.
So with cataracts, I'm not sure about the vitamins that you may take for that. Well, I think that the biggest thing is to consult with your ophthalmologist and find out what they are recommending that you do when it comes to that, because everyone is so individualized that I don't know that we could recommend any specific vitamins for folks.
Okay, thank you. And then another one is, are you predisposed to Alzheimer's, dementia if a parent suffered from it?
So the research is kind of mixed on this. We know that even if you have had a parent with it, you want to look at what their lifestyle choices were. And if there were some things in their lifestyle or in their environment that may have led or progressed that disease more. Remember all of those healthy lifestyle choices that I had. So even if there is some type of brain disease that is hereditary, if you take some steps to help prevent that, you can definitely slow down that process or keep it from happening in altogether. With my mom with Parkinson's disease, they definitely told me that it's not hereditary, and that we shouldn't be concerned. It was more with some of the things that she had experienced in her life, which included she grew up on a dairy farm with pesticides and chemicals that were used that we don't use anymore because they're not allowed. And then also near my grandparents' dairy farm was a uranium processing plant. And so there's a lot of different connections there that have, caused environmentally that caused her illness.
Thank you so much. And then I think this is the last one. What are 3 ways to improve the movement of short-term and long-term memory, and how can they improve long-term memory recall?
So again, watching out for, increasing your nutrition, making sure that you eat a healthier diet, which will slow down any type of clogged arteries or oxygen flow to the brain. Working through some of those healthy lifestyles. So we know that exercising your brain and your body can help you think and remember and learn things, as well as watching the medications that you're taking and understanding how they might impact it as well. Rest, relaxation, all will help with that consolidation and promoting better memory.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Oh, wait, another one just popped up. Is there guidance or sources for when memory problems can make driving unsafe?
There should be, I'm trying to Google it right now. Sorry. So I think the AARP may have some information on safe driving for seniors. One of the things that I do recommend is if you do have a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's in your family, is that you start talking really early on about the what ifs. These conversations can be difficult at times to have, but they can also help you in the future. So for example, with my mother, we knew with her Parkinson's and the medication that she was going to be taking that we were going to see, progressively decline in her mental capacities and her ability to take care of herself. So we had a notebook that she created with different things that would allow us to, say, for example, take her car keys away, or would those things that would trigger the event that we might take over her financial concerns. And having that conversation early before she started to lose her independence, before she started to decline even more, allowed us to know what she wanted when her faculties were good. And so we had all those in writing and she signed them, and it gave us a sense of security knowing that we were doing what she wanted done, even though as her dementia got worse, that she fought us with it and thought we were horrible people. But, being aware of those things. So if you're getting lost when you're out, when you're in different places, if you're taking certain medications that the doctor has said is going to impair you, your ability to drive or react, then those are things that you need to make sure that you're sharing with your family and, reaching out. It's one of our biggest fears is loss of independence when you get older. And driving is one of those key factors when it comes to losing independence.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Sorry, everyone, I lost my Zoom. I got kicked off and it froze. So sorry about that if that messed anything up. And thank you to Emily for helping out with reading the questions. So I think that is all of our questions. I don't see any more in the chat, and I see we're right at our time. So Kathy, thank you so much for being here today, teaching us all this great information that is so useful. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise. And thank you to everyone who joined us and tuned in. You will all be receiving a follow-up email either later today or Monday morning that will have information on how to access the recording. And there also will be an evaluation in there. If you could take just a few minutes to fill it out, it really helps us better our programming. So be on the lookout for that. And that is all we have. So thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great weekend and go Buckeyes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.